Say this when you receive money to multiply it instantly. Florence Scovel Shinn. There exists a profound mystery hidden within every dollar, every coin, every form of abundance that flows into your life. Most people receive money with unconscious patterns of fear, scarcity, or mere appreciation, never understanding that the moment money arrives is actually a sacred portal of multiplication. Florence Scovel Shinn revealed that money is not merely paper or metal, but a physical manifestation of divine substance responding to consciousness. When you receive money, you are holding crystallized thought energy, materialized faith, and the universe's direct communication that your vibration has aligned with prosperity. The ancient spiritual law states that what you acknowledge expands, and what you speak over your supply determines its trajectory. Every time money enters your possession, you stand at a crossroads of consciousness. Will you receive it with the limited thinking of human experience, or will you recognize it as God's infinite substance temporarily taking form through you? The words you speak in that moment of reception become the spiritual instructions that determine whether your money multiplies or diminishes, circulates or stagnates, blesses or burdens. Consider the difference between two people receiving the same amount of money. One thinks, finally, some relief, while speaking words of survival and limitation. The other recognizes, this is divine substance flowing perfectly through me, and declares words of multiplication and circulation. Both have received identical physical money, but they have set entirely different spiritual forces in motion. The first person has unknowingly instructed their money to be consumed by lack consciousness. The second has activated the law of increase through recognition of money's true spiritual nature. Florence taught that God's supply is limitless, but our reception of it depends entirely upon our consciousness and our spoken word. Money is simply divine energy that has agreed to take temporary form in our dimension. When we treat it as sacred substance rather than mere currency, we invoke its highest potential for multiplication. The universe is constantly seeking channels through which to pour its abundance, and those who recognize money as spirit in form become magnets for infinite supply. The moment of receiving money is pregnant with creative possibility. Your consciousness in that instant, combined with your spoken words, creates a vibrational template that determines how that money will behave in your life. Will it multiply like the loaves and fishes, or will it disappear into the black hole of unconscious spending? The choice is yours, and it begins with understanding that you are not just receiving money, you are receiving materialized divine love, intelligence, and creative power. This recognition transforms you from a beggar hoping for more money into a conscious co-creator with infinite supply. You begin to see that money flows to you not because you need it, but because consciousness has prepared you to be a worthy steward of divine substance. Every dollar becomes a seed of infinity, waiting for your recognition and blessing to activate its multiplication properties. When you truly understand this spiritual principle, receiving money becomes a holy sacrament rather than a merely human transaction. The moment money reaches your hands, you must immediately shift from human gratitude to divine recognition. Human gratitude says, "Thank you for this money," which implies separation and scarcity. Divine recognition declares, "I recognize this divine substance flowing perfectly according to spiritual law," which invokes multiplication and continuity. Florence Scovel Shinn emphasized that our words carry creative power, and the vibration behind our words determines the spiritual forces we set in motion. When you receive money with multiplication consciousness, you are not merely acknowledging the physical currency. You are speaking to the infinite intelligence behind all supply. You are communicating directly with the same creative force that multiplies seeds into harvests, cells into bodies, and stars into galaxies. Your words become instructions to this infinite intelligence about how you expect your supply to behave. If you speak to your money as limited resource, it obeys by becoming limited. If you speak to it as unlimited divine substance, it responds by multiplying. The vibration of multiplication consciousness recognizes that all money is connected to the infinite source of all money. When you receive $100, you are not receiving separate bills. You are receiving divine substance that is temporarily wearing the costume of $100. Behind this physical manifestation stands the unlimited treasury of the universe, waiting to flow through the channel of consciousness you have opened through your recognition and spoken word. Most people unconsciously push money away, even as they receive it, by immediately thinking about what they lack, what bills they must pay, or how little they have. These thoughts and words create resistance that blocks the natural flow of increase. Instead, the moment you receive any amount of money, you must consciously align with the vibration of divine circulation. You must speak to the money as conscious divine substance, instructing it to multiply, circulate, and return to you increased according to spiritual law. Florence revealed that the universe operates through the law of circulation, where what flows out in right consciousness returns multiplied. When you receive money with multiplication consciousness, you are setting spiritual precedent for continuous increase. You are declaring to all the money in the universe that you are a willing, conscious, and prepared channel for infinite supply. This recognition creates a magnetic field of prosperity around your entire existence. The key lies in understanding that your relationship with each dollar determines your relationship with all money. If you can receive $1 with perfect faith, recognition, and multiplication consciousness, you have established the vibrational pattern that can attract millions. The amount is irrelevant to divine intelligence. The consciousness is everything. When you speak to $10 as unlimited divine substance, you are speaking to the same intelligence that controls all the money in existence. Your spoken words in the moment of receiving money become mantras of multiplication that continue working in the invisible realm long after the words are spoken. These words create vibrational ripples that attract more money, better opportunities, and increased circulation. Every conscious reception becomes a prayer for increase, a declaration of faith, and an instruction to infinite intelligence about your readiness to receive greater abundance. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that specific words carry specific spiritual power, and when you receive money, there are sacred phrases that immediately activate the law of multiplication. The moment money enters your possession, you must consciously speak these words with full faith and recognition. Divine substance, I recognize you now taking perfect form as my supply. I bless your circulation through me and declare your immediate multiplication according to spiritual law. As I release you in perfect faith, you return to me multiplied, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. These are not mere words. They are spiritual instructions that communicate directly with the intelligence behind all manifestation. When you speak these words over money, you are acknowledging its true nature as divine substance, blessing its mission in your life, and programming it for multiplication. You are also declaring your understanding of the spiritual law of circulation, which states that what is given in consciousness returns multiplied according to the giver's faith and recognition. The power lies not just in the words themselves, but in the consciousness behind them. You must speak these words with absolute conviction that you are addressing living, intelligent, divine substance that responds immediately to spiritual recognition. Money is not dead matter. It is crystallized divine energy that obeys consciousness and responds to faith. When you speak to it as such, it becomes activated with the power of infinite multiplication. Another powerful declaration to speak when receiving money is, I receive this divine substance with perfect faith. I recognize the unlimited source behind this visible supply. I speak the word of multiplication over every dollar, commanding it to return to me increased according to God's law of abundance. I am a perfect channel for infinite circulation, and my supply is limitless, immediate, and multiplying now. The moment you speak these words with genuine recognition and faith, you have set spiritual law in motion. The money in your hands becomes magnetized with multiplication energy. It carries your vibration of faith and expectation into the quantum field of infinite possibility, where it attracts similar vibrational frequencies of abundance and increase. This is not wishful thinking. This is the application of spiritual law that governs all manifestation. Florence emphasized that our spoken word is our spiritual power, and money responds to words the same way that all divine substance responds, through vibrational alignment and spiritual instruction. When you consistently speak these multiplication declarations over every dollar you receive, you establish yourself as a conscious co-creator with infinite supply. You become known in the spiritual realm as someone who recognizes divine substance and speaks correctly to it. You must also understand that these words work because they align your consciousness with spiritual truth. When you declare money to be divine substance, you are stating a spiritual fact. When you command its multiplication, you are exercising your divine authority as a spiritual being. When you bless its circulation through you, you are acknowledging the law of giving and receiving that governs all abundance. These words work because they are true, and truth always manifests when spoken with faith and recognition. The consistency of this practice creates a powerful spiritual momentum. Every time you receive money and speak these sacred words, you are reinforcing the vibrational pattern of multiplication in your consciousness. You are training your subconscious mind to automatically expect increase, and you are programming your energy field to attract continuous abundance. This practice transforms you from a passive receiver of money into an active creator of multiplication. Before you can truly multiply money through spiritual recognition, you must break free from the collective consciousness of limitation that surrounds money in human experience. Most people have been unconsciously programmed to believe that money is scarce, difficult to obtain, and even more difficult to keep. These beliefs create invisible barriers that prevent the natural multiplication of supply, regardless of how much money flows through their hands. Florence Scovel Shinn revealed that we must consciously reject these limiting beliefs and replace them with spiritual truth. The consciousness of lack whispers lies the moment money arrives. This won't last. I better save this. I need to be careful. Or, I hope I can make this stretch. These thoughts and their corresponding words create vibrational resistance that literally pushes abundance away. They instruct the money to behave according to limitation rather than multiplication. When you receive money while thinking thoughts of scarcity, you are unconsciously programming that money for decrease rather than increase. To break this pattern, you must consciously reject every limiting thought that arises when money flows to you. The moment you notice fear, worry, or scarcity thinking, you must immediately declare, I reject this thought of limitation. Money is divine substance, and divine substance is unlimited. I speak only words of multiplication and increase over my supply. This conscious rejection, combined with positive declaration, creates a new vibrational pattern that allows money to multiply according to spiritual law. Florence taught that we must become vigilant guards of our consciousness, especially around money. Every thought about money is either a prayer for increase or a declaration of limitation. There is no neutral ground in consciousness. When you think abundant thoughts and speak abundant words about money, you are praying for multiplication. When you think limited thoughts and speak worried words, you are praying for decrease, and both prayers are answered according to spiritual law. The healing of money consciousness requires understanding that God's supply is infinite and that lack exists only in human consciousness, never in divine reality. Every time you receive money, you must consciously connect with this spiritual truth. You must remind yourself that behind every dollar stands the unlimited treasury of the universe, and that you are receiving just a tiny fraction of your infinite inheritance. This recognition breaks the spell of limitation and opens the channels for continuous increase. You must also release the need to control how money behaves in your life. Control comes from fear and creates resistance to natural circulation. Instead, you must trust the divine intelligence within money to multiply and circulate perfectly according to spiritual law. When you receive money, bless it, speak multiplication over it, and then release it with perfect faith that it will return to you increased. This release activates the law of circulation that governs all divine substance. The consciousness of limitation also includes the belief that you must work hard for money or that money represents hours of labor. While diligent work is valuable, true prosperity comes from consciousness alignment, not physical effort alone. When you receive money, you must recognize it as divine substance responding to your consciousness rather than mere compensation for time spent. This recognition elevates your relationship with money from the human level of exchange to the divine level of multiplication. Breaking limitation consciousness also means refusing to speak words of financial struggle or difficulty, regardless of current appearances. Your words are creating your future financial reality, and every complaint about money shortage is an instruction to the universe to continue the shortage. Instead, even when money is scarce, you must speak words of abundance and multiplication, knowing that your conscious declaration is calling forth the supply that your physical senses have not yet detected. Florence Scovel Shinn revealed one of the most powerful spiritual laws governing money, the law of circulation. This law states that money is divine substance in motion, designed to flow through consciousness rather than being hoarded or accumulated through fear. When you receive money with multiplication consciousness and then allow it to circulate freely according to divine guidance, you create a spiritual vortex that draws continuous abundance into your experience. Understanding and applying this principle is essential for experiencing the miraculous multiplication of supply. The moment you receive money, you must immediately recognize that you are not the final destination, but rather a conscious channel through which divine substance flows. Money has not come to you to stop its movement, but to be blessed, multiplied, and released according to spiritual law. When you hold money with this understanding, you become a powerful magnet for continuous circulation. The universe can trust you with abundance because it knows you will not block the flow through fear or hoarding. True prosperity is not measured by how much money you can accumulate, but by how freely and consciously money flows through your experience. When you receive money and immediately declare, "Divine substance, I bless your circulation through me and release you to multiply according to perfect law," you are activating the principle that ensures continuous return. This circulation creates what Florence called divine rhythm in your financial affairs, a natural flow of giving and receiving that maintains perfect supply. The circulation principle operates through the spiritual law of vacuum, which states that when you create space through giving, that space must be filled by the universe. When you receive money and then release it freely in perfect faith, you create a vacuum that divine intelligence immediately rushes to fill, often with much more than you released. This is not mere positive thinking, but the operation of spiritual law that governs all abundance in the universe. You must also understand that circulation includes not just the spending of money, but the energy with which you spend it. When you spend money from a consciousness of lack, worrying about whether more will come, you create resistance that slows the circulation. When you spend money from a consciousness of abundance, blessing each dollar as it flows from you and declaring its perfect return, you accelerate the circulation and invite rapid multiplication. Florence taught that divine supply operates through people, opportunities, and unexpected channels, but it always responds to consciousness and circulation. When you receive money and then hoard it through fear, you send a message to the universe that you believe supply is limited. When you receive money and circulate it freely with faith and blessing, you demonstrate your understanding that supply is infinite and your willingness to be a continuous channel for abundance. The practice of conscious circulation also includes blessing the money as it leaves your possession. Whether you are paying bills, making purchases, or giving to others, each expenditure should be accompanied by words of blessing and multiplication. I bless this money as it flows from me to perfect circulation. I release it with perfect faith that it returns to me multiplied according to spiritual law. I am grateful for the privilege of participating in divine circulation. This conscious circulation creates what Florence called the law of opulence, where money flows so freely and abundantly through your experience that lack becomes impossible. You establish yourself as someone through whom divine substance loves to flow because it knows it will be recognized, blessed, and released with perfect faith. This recognition by divine intelligence results in your becoming a priority destination for all forms of abundance and opportunity. The circulation principle also requires releasing attachment to specific forms or amounts of return. When you circulate money with demands about how, when, or through whom it must return, you limit the infinite ways divine intelligence can multiply your supply. Instead, You must release money with perfect faith that divine intelligence will orchestrate its return in ways that exceed your human expectations and imagination. When you have mastered the art of receiving money with multiplication consciousness, speaking the sacred words of increase, breaking limitation patterns, and circulating freely with faith, you transform from someone who occasionally receives money into a permanent channel for infinite multiplication. This transformation represents the highest application of Florence Scovel Shinn's teachings about supply and represents the consciousness she called living in the fourth dimension, where divine law supersedes human limitation and abundance flows as naturally as breathing. Living as a permanent channel means that your default relationship with money becomes one of multiplication rather than management. You no longer receive money with anxiety about whether more will come or with strategies for making it last. Instead, you receive every dollar with complete confidence that it carries within itself the seeds of infinite increase. Your consciousness remains permanently aligned with the truth that divine substance is unlimited, and that you are a beloved channel through which the universe expresses its abundance. This permanent consciousness shift creates what Florence called supernatural supply, where money appears through channels your human mind could never have orchestrated. Opportunities, gifts, refunds, bonuses, and unexpected income become the norm rather than the exception, because your consciousness has become a powerful attractor field for all forms of divine substance. You have proven to spiritual intelligence that you can be trusted with abundance because you recognize its true nature and treat it according to spiritual law. The permanent channel consciousness also includes the automatic multiplication of everything you touch. When you reach this level of spiritual development, your very presence blesses and multiplies supply wherever you go. Businesses prosper when you support them, investments increase when you participate, and people experience abundance when they associate with you. This is not ego or self-aggrandizement. This is the natural result of becoming consciously aligned with the multiplication principle of the universe. You must understand that becoming a permanent channel is not a destination, but a way of life that requires constant consciousness and practice. Every day, with every dollar, you must choose multiplication consciousness over limitation thinking. You must choose sacred recognition over human worry. You must choose circulation over accumulation. These choices, made consistently over time, establish you permanently in the flow of divine abundance and multiplication. Florence emphasized that this consciousness cannot be faked or manufactured through mere technique. It must become your genuine recognition of spiritual truth and your authentic relationship with divine substance. When you truly understand that all money is God's money temporarily in your stewardship, when you genuinely recognize that supply is infinite, and when you authentically trust the law of circulation, you automatically become a channel for continuous multiplication. The final mastery comes when you can receive a penny or $1 million with exactly the same consciousness of multiplication, blessing, and circulation. At this level, the amount becomes irrelevant because you are dealing directly with infinite intelligence that knows no limitations. You have transcended the human world of financial struggle and entered the divine realm of supernatural supply, where lack is impossible and multiplication is automatic. As you continue to practice these principles, remember that you are not just transforming your personal financial situation. You are becoming a demonstration of divine law that inspires others to discover their own spiritual inheritance. Your example of multiplication consciousness becomes a beacon of hope for everyone who witnesses your prosperity, and your success becomes proof that spiritual law is real, reliable, and available to all who will apply it with faith and recognition. The words you speak over money today determine your financial tomorrow. The consciousness you hold about supply creates your supply. The faith you demonstrate in circulation determines your circulation. Choose multiplication consciousness, speak words of increase, circulate freely with faith, and watch as divine intelligence transforms you into a permanent channel for infinite abundance. This is not just Florence Scovel Shinn's promise, this is spiritual law, and spiritual law never fails those who apply it with perfect faith and recognition.